1. The production of too many useful things results in too many useless people. 2. The worker is nothing more than an appendage of the machine. 3. Capital is dead labor, that, vampire-like, only lives by sucking living labor, and lives the more labor it sucks. 4. The rich will do anything for the poor but get off their backs. 5. The oppressed are allowed once every few years to decide which particular representatives of the oppressing class shall represent and repress them. 6. The theory of communism may be summed up in one sentence: abolish all private property. 7. The history of all hitherto existing society is the history of class struggles. 8. Under capitalism, man exploits man. Under communism, it's just the opposite. 9. Labor creates all wealth, but the worker receives only enough to survive. 10. The last capitalist we hang shall be the one who sold us the rope. 11. Workers of the world, unite. You have nothing to lose but your chains. 12. There is no greater stupidity than for people to suffer in silence. 13. The ruling ideas of each age have ever been the ideas of its ruling class. 14. A revolution is necessary not only because the ruling class cannot be overthrown in any other way, but also because the class overthrowing it can only succeed by revolutionizing itself. 15. Democracy is the road to socialism. 16. History calls those men the greatest who have ennobled themselves by working for the common good. 17. Accumulation of wealth at one pole is at the same time accumulation of misery at the opposite pole. 18. The proletarians have nothing to lose but their chains. They have a world to win. 19. The meaning of peace is the absence of opposition to socialism. 20. Capitalist production destroys its own foundation, labor and nature. 21. The alienation of the worker in his product means that the labor put into it appears to him as something alien. 22. The devaluation of the human world increases in direct proportion to the increase in value of the world of things. 23. In capitalist society, the past dominates the present; in communist society, the present dominates the past. 24. Man is a species being, not only because he practically and theoretically makes the species his object, but also because he treats himself as the real, living species. 25. Religion is the sigh of the oppressed creature, the heart of a heartless world, and the soul of soulless conditions. 26. It is not the consciousness of men that determines their being, but their social being that determines their consciousness. 27. Men make their own history, but they do not make it as they please. 28. The philosophers have only interpreted the world, in various ways. The point, however, is to change it. 29. Human activity is essentially social activity. 30. The individual is the social being. 31. Capitalism creates its own gravediggers. 32. Freedom consists in converting the state from an organ superimposed upon society into one completely subordinate to it. 33. Society does not consist of individuals but expresses the sum of interrelations. 34. State power is nothing but organized violence of one class for oppressing another. 35. The bureaucracy is a circle from which no one can escape. 36. There must be something rotten in the very core of a social system which increases its wealth without diminishing its misery. 37. A nation that enslaves another forges its own chains. 38. The first step in the revolution by the working class is to raise the proletariat to the position of ruling class. 39. Every emancipation is a restoration of the human world and human relationships to man himself. 40. The state is not abolished, it withers away. 41. Communism is the riddle of history solved. 42. The abolition of religion as the illusory happiness of the people is the demand for their real happiness. 43. From each according to his ability, to each according to his needs. 44. The advance of industry, whose involuntary promoter is the bourgeoisie, replaces the isolation of laborers, due to competition, by their revolutionary combination, due to association. 45. Political power, properly so called, is merely the organized power of one class for oppressing another. 46. The proletariat will use its political supremacy to wrest, by degree, all capital from the bourgeoisie. 47. Society as a whole is more and more splitting up into two great hostile camps, bourgeoisie and proletariat. 48. Capitalists can buy labor, but they cannot buy the laborer. 49. The ruling class, once it loses its grip, will attempt to destroy everything rather than let go of power. 50. The social revolution is the inevitable consequence of economic forces. 51. The ideas of the ruling class are in every epoch the ruling ideas. 52. The tradition of all dead generations weighs like a nightmare on the brains of the living. 53. Philosophy stands in the same relation to the study of the actual world as masturbation does to sexual love. 54. In the eyes of dialectical philosophy, nothing is established for all time. 55. Social progress can be measured by the social position of the female sex. 56. History is not only about what happened but also about how and why it happened. 57. Labor is the living, shaping fire, it is the transitory agency. 58. Reason has always existed, but not always in a reasonable form. 59. Society produces the conditions in which individuals develop. 60. Freedom is the control over one's own existence. 61. The more productive capital grows, the more it enslaves labor. 62. Capitalism sows the seeds of its own destruction. 63. Capitalist production develops technology only by simultaneously undermining the sources of all wealth, nature and human labor. 64. The capitalist does not produce for the needs of society but for profit. 65. Wages are the price of labor power, but labor power is not a commodity like any other. 66. In bourgeois society, capital is independent and has individuality, while the living person is dependent and has no individuality. 67. The circulation of capital determines the movement of society. 68. The extension of markets leads to the intensification of exploitation. 69. Capitalism transforms everything into a commodity, including human relationships. 70. The struggle for higher wages is not a fight against the system but within the system. 71. The development of industry has replaced the small workshop with the factory, the isolated laborer with the collective worker. 72. The ruling class will always attempt to use every means to prevent the rise of the working class. 73. All history is the history of class struggles, of the oppressor and the oppressed. 74. Revolutions are the locomotives of history. 75. There comes a time when the forces of production outgrow the old social structures and demand new ones. 76. No revolution is possible without the organization of the working class. 77. Revolutions do not happen by accident, they arise from contradictions within society. 78. The oppressed will only be free when they understand the mechanisms of their oppression. 79. The working class has no country, workers of all lands must unite. 80. The dictatorship of the proletariat is the transition to the abolition of all classes. 81. Every society is shaped by the economic structures upon which it is built. 82. The consciousness of man does not determine his existence, but his social existence determines his consciousness. 83. The social organization of production determines the nature of individuals. 84. The contradiction between the forces and relations of production is what drives social change. 85. The true wealth of society lies in its laboring class, not its capitalists. 86. The struggle for social progress is the struggle against the forces that seek to keep people ignorant and oppressed. 87. Private property has made us so stupid that we see nothing as our own except what we own. 88. Social relationships determine individual freedom and oppression. 89. Every economic system produces its own ideology to justify itself. 90. The more wealth a society accumulates, the greater its inequalities become. 91. The transition from capitalism to communism will not be peaceful. 92. Communism does not seek to abolish work but to liberate it. 93. The free development of each is the condition for the free development of all. 94. True freedom can only exist in a classless society. 95. Under socialism, the means of production will be used for the well-being of all, not the profit of a few. 96. The liberation of humanity begins with the liberation of labor. 97. Socialism is the first step toward the full realization of human potential. 98. The new society must be built from the ashes of the old. 99. The success of communism depends on the working class seizing power. 100. A socialist society will end the alienation between man and his labor.